Hey everybody, I'm Jim, the Money Man. I'm back. I got a video for you today that will talk about dealing with large boards, money boards, reading those in Make or Integromat. And by large, I'm talking about having more than 3,000 items or so. If you've done this in the past, you may have found that your scenarios are timing out, or even worse, you're just not getting all the records. And so we're going to talk about why that happens, how to deal with it. And in part two, I'm going to show you a more creative way to deal with it that is much more flexible, is easier to maintain going forward. And if you're still having issues, you can make adjustments to make those things go away. So without further ado, let's get started. So here we are in version 1 of a scenario that I created to show the issues of dealing with large boards. And specifically by large, I mean lots of items. So right here, I have a module that is going to read up to 5,000 items on this particular board. And it gives me a few of the column values, and I click OK. I'm going to run this and it's going to go off and do its work. Now there's two main issues with reading boards with lots of items on there. One is that it won't return all of the items. And I'll show you that in a second. The second thing is that depending on the situation, these can actually time out. And that's mostly an issue when we deal with mirrored columns, but we'll cover that at another time. So if I come in here and I look at, I've got my input as being 5,000 items. And if I drag this all the way down, I'll be able to easily see that I read in 3,200 items. Now, this particular board has, I don't remember exactly, but it has over 4,000 items. So I didn't even get them all. So that's a significant problem. And so that the timing issue and not getting all the items is a problem. So what I want to do is I want to be able to figure out how to read all of the items and not time out. So what we're going to do is we're going to make some adjustments so that we can make sure that we get all of the records. So the first thing we want to do is come back in here to our list boards items. We're going to change the limit to something less than, well, in this case, for sure less than, what is it? 3,200, right? Now, I'm going to turn on the advanced settings, and you can see the main item here is the start page. And notice the details here. So if enter the start page and 1 to whatever, if you want to change the result of the output. Here's the key thing. If show parent ID or show subitem ID is checked, the page size will be 100 items. Otherwise, it will be 1,000 items. So we want to get things synced. So we want to have this be a multiple, if we were including one of these, of 100, or in the case where we're not, of 1,000. So I'm going to change this to 3,000. Hopefully that'll be safe. And we're going to start on page 1. Click OK. And so now what we're going to do, hopefully this is going to give us 3,000 records. We're going to copy this and we're going to paste it right here. And then we're going to just add it in here. So we'll get to this other stuff. I think I said that already. We'll get to it later. Okay. So this should give us 3,000 records. And then over here, we should get another 3,000 records, but we want it to be starting at page, let's see, it would be page 4, right? Because that first one's going to give us 3. So we want page 4. All right. And is that what we need? I believe it is. Okay. So let's run this. I was thinking of playing the Jeopardy music that people always play when they're waiting for something, but I'll just speed it up. All right. I'm going to align that. Okay. So let's confirm that we did get 3,000 records. So we'll drag this down to the bottom. And yes, we got, actually, I guess I don't need to go all the way to the bottom, do I? Anyway, so on here, we should have gotten less than 3,000, 1,516. So that's great. Okay, so that should be all of the items on the board. Now, often we actually don't put these into an array. Now, I do it a lot, but I know that's not always the normal way. So what we have here is two separate arrays, and we can easily combine those by doing a set multiple variable, putting that here, and we want to just call it items, and we're going to pick both of these arrays, and we're going to merge them. So I'm going to go to the array formulas and find merge, and then we just want to do that. Okay, I'm going to run this again now with this merged data. But let me just show you, just for completeness. This is the way we normally address um, things coming in from Monday if we want to put them in an array. And I don't like this, and I'll show you what to do about it later because it just lumps everything together, and that gives us a secondary um, level in our array, which I don't like. But anyway, we'll get to that. Okay, so we're going to now do the reads, get an array, do it again, get another array, and then we're going to combine those. And then if you wanted, now that gives you a complete array, right? Um, if you wanted to execute a scenario or situation where you're going to iterate through all of those items, all you would have to do is come in here and add an iterator. And then you would get all whatever 4,500 whatever items. So, and then you could just work through all of them. Now, a lot of times what I'm doing when I do this array, I'm selecting from there which items I want to process. And so I get a much shorter list. Let's run this and I'll be back in a second. All right. So now let's confirm again that we got our 3,200 records. Yep. And then here we get our 1,516. Okay, great. And so now we should have in this combined array 4,516, right? Now, one thing, when you start dealing with very large data sets, clicking on that seems very benign, but it can lock up your scenario and you have to restart. So what I should have done before I did that is hit save. And before I do anything else, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Click save. It was fine. I didn't need to get out of it. All right. So now if we look at this, hopefully it won't lock. Okay, it didn't. I should have just added another one here to give us the, okay, so here we go, near the bottom. There we go. Okay, so we got our 4,516 items. So have now been successful in reading the entire board. We didn't get any timeouts. We got all of the items that were requiring splits. Okay, so I want to just back up at the top, show you what the structure of each of these array items looks like. Now we'll get the item ID, And notice how slow this is when it's dealing with lots of data. So I get the item ID, the name, and then I get a collection of the mappable column values. And if I open that up, I get the customer link. That should open up as well. And then I get the date. I don't like this structure, and I said that several times probably already. So let me show you how to deal with that. And we're going to close this. I'm going to use a module called create JSON. And this is the way to utilize a data structure. So I'm going to click in here to show you what I've done. And I have this data structure that I've created. I'm going to go ahead and edit it so you can see it. And I'm going to edit the actual structure. So I have in here, this is an array, and then inside the array is a collection that's required to use it the way we're going to use it. We have item ID, name, the customer ID, that's going to be a item ID. Then we have something that was supposed to be customer name. Let's go ahead and fix that. Oh, it is. Okay, it's just not showing it. All right. And then we have the date closed. So all of the other information that's there, I don't care about. This is all that I actually care about. So I'm going to, since I don't need to, I didn't make any changes, I'm going to just cancel these out. Okay. So if I come over here into my arrays now, instead of using custom and then selecting the particular values that I want, I can change this now to this module is JSON 42. So that's right here. And we're going to pick that. And now it's asking me, what do you want to put into this data structure? And so I come back in here and I say, I want the item ID there. I want the name there. I want the customer ID. Where is that? So that's going to be in my mapped column values. It's going to be the customer. And I don't care. I only have one. I will only ever have one. So I'm going to get from this. And then I want the customer name to just be the text returned. But put it in the wrong place. Okay, so there we go. And then the date closed. Now you need to be careful all the time with dates in Monday and then Integromat. Monday is very helpful, and Integromat and Make not as much. It's not that they're not helpful. It's just that it's more complex. So when I go into the close date, where is here? Close. There we go. And so this date and this time are in the universal time. So these are at UTC. And this one, this text representation is in your time zone. So whoever's ID you're using or the token you're using, this will be interpreted from their time zone. And so we see that this is 5 o'clock on January 20th up here, and it is 00 hours on January 20th down here. And these are the same. This is because this is in UTC and this is in my time zone, which is East Coast. So what I want in this case, I'm just going to make it simple. I'm just going to grab the text. But because this is a date field and I didn't use it as a text field, I need to change this into a real date. So what I'm going to do is just, this is kind of a no extra charge. So I'm going to parse the date, and the format that we have is year dash month dash day space 24 hour and then minute. So that will give me the actual date that's coming back from that. So we've set this up. Now, if I was the easy way to do this probably is to change this. So you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. We're going to move on. So There's a number of ways to get this to not run. One is to do this. The other one is to unlink it. We're going to stick with that. So we're going to run it one more time. Actually, let's do this. We'll mess up our scenario here slightly, and we'll just change this to 5. Okay, that'll make it run fast. All right, so now I'm going to look at my structure. So this is the input. We don't care about that. Here's the output. So I have my array of collections again, but if I open that, now instead of getting that weird stuff, I now have the exact fields that I am looking for. And so there we go. Okay, so one thing you do need to make sure that this array and this array is in the same format. So if I did this and I didn't update this, it's gonna be weird and not very helpful. So I would need to adjust that to the different data structure, and then we could do it that way. Not the way I'd really do that is just to delete these and recopy that one. And anyway, okay. So this is one way to do with that, but it's not super flexible. And if I make changes here, then I also have to make them here. And same thing with the aggregator. So if I change this data structure and change this output, I would then have to change all of that here, and if I had this as 5 separate ones of these, then it gets even more complicated. So I'm going to show you a arguably better way to do it. All right, that's it for today. I hope that was helpful. In part 2, I'm going to talk about a creative solution that will be more flexible, easier to maintain, and adjustable if you're still having issues. Till then, I'm Jim, the Money Man.